Hello, welcome to today's video. In this video, we want to focus on the use of the pronoun as an object of the verb, whether as direct object or indirect object. In last week's video, we focused on the pronoun, the use of the pronoun as the object of the preposition. My father bought Jane and I a car. My father bought Jane and me a car. Of course, this is incorrect. This is correct. I always insist that it is not enough to tell you that this is correct. You need to understand why. When you know why, when you understand why, it gives you confidence when you speak, when you write. And you can also explain to others. You can share with others your knowledge. So let's try to know why. Let's try to understand why from the perspective of grammar. Why this is incorrect and this is correct. First thing we want to look at is to understand what we mean by the object of the verb. Verbs are action words, or they are words that show condition or state of being. Our focus is on the action verbs. Most verbs that express action have receivers of such action. For example, in the sentence, Sandra kicked the ball. Sandra kicked the ball. This is an action, and something received the kick. That thing that received the action is the object of the verb. So in this sentence, the ball is the object of kicked. Now there's a simple formula you use to find the object of the verb in a sentence. Just ask yourself what or whom. What or whom. Sandra kicked the ball. What did Sandra kick the ball? Once you find the answer, this is the object of the verb. I saw Sandra. This is an action. Ask yourself, whom did I see? And the answer is Sandra. So this is the object of this verb. Now, sometimes in some sentences, you have two objects, a direct object and an indirect object. Now, one of the ways to identify the indirect object is to ask yourself this question: for whom or to whom? For whom or to whom? And to identify the direct object, this is to identify the indirect object. You have a sentence. You are looking for the indirect object of the verb. Just ask yourself, for whom or to whom? Once you find the answer, that is the indirect object of the verb. You are looking for the direct object of the verb. Ask yourself, what or whom? Let's illustrate this with other sentences. Sandra gave Jane a car. I'm searching in this sentence. I'm looking for the indirect object. So I ask, to whom? Because this is not applicable here. For whom? No, to whom did Sandra give a car? Sandra gave a car. To whom did Sandra give a car? The answer is Jane. She gave a car to Jane. This is the indirect object of this verb, gave. I'm looking for the direct object. What should I ask? What did Sandra give to Jane? I'm searching for the direct object of the verb in this sentence. So I'll ask myself this question: what did Sandra give to Jane? It's a car. So this is the direct object of the verb, and this is the indirect object of the verb. Sandra bought Jane a phone. I am searching for the indirect object of the verb. This is the verb, bought, and I'm searching for the indirect object. I ask myself, for whom or to whom? Which of these questions will be applicable here? For whom? For whom did Sandra buy a phone? For whom? For Jane. So this is the indirect object of this verb. I'm searching for the direct object. What question should I ask? What or whom? What did Sandra buy for Jane? The answer is a phone. So I believe we understand the concept of the direct object and the indirect object. Now, keep this point in mind. In many sentences, the indirect object always comes before. In sentences where you have, not all sentences have a direct object and an indirect object. Some sentences just have only a direct object. So in such a case, we just say it has an object. The verb has an object. Now, where we have a sentence that has a direct object and an indirect object, take note that the indirect object always comes before the direct object. Now, what is the implication of all of these for case? A pronoun that is used as the object. Let me give an illustration where a pronoun is used Sandra bought him a phone. I'm searching for the indirect object here. So I'm going to ask, for whom did Sandra buy a phone? Him. This is a pronoun functioning as the indirect object of this verb. This is the pronoun, and it is functioning here as the indirect object of this. Now, the point you need to keep in mind, and I made this point when I was treating the use of the pronoun as the object of the preposition. Once a pronoun functions as the indirect object of the verb, such as in this case, or it functions as the direct object of the verb, such as in this case, Sandra slapped him. Sandra slapped him. This is an action. The receiver of the action is this. Whom did Sandra slap? Him. So once a pronoun functions as the indirect object of the verb or the direct object of the verb, it is in the objective case, and it must be in any of these, many of these, not this. Now this is just a table for reference purpose. This is singular. All of these ones here are used as subjects of sentences. All of these ones here are used as objects of verbs, direct and indirect object, and object of prepositions. So when you have a pronoun functioning as the direct object of a verb or the indirect object of the verb, it must be in the objective case. This is why it is incorrect to say, my father bought. Now this is an action verb. My father bought Jane and I a car. Jane and I is the object of this verb, the indirect object. For whom did my father buy a car? Jane and I. So Jane and I is supposed to function as the indirect object of this verb. However, this pronoun is incorrectly used. We're supposed to use the pronoun on this part, not on this side. My father bought Jane and me a car. So objects of verbs, direct object and indirect object, and objects of prepositions are in the objective case. I want to thank you for your time once again. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any difficulty with this, let me know at the comment section. And you may wish to go over this video a second time. I believe if you do, things will get clearer. Once again, thank you.